Okay, let's dive in. So picture this. It's early morning in Abuja, Nigeria. A phone rings.
Right.
And the person answering, our author, hears from a former student, Hussein. And the news is, well, it's heavy, advanced cancer.
Tough situation.
Definitely. And Hussein asks for prayers, but also, like, is there anything else I should do? And what happens next, based on the reflections we're looking at today? It's kind of remarkable.
The author suggested sacrifices, didn't they? 3 of them.
Exactly. 3 sacrifices with the specific intention of healing. And get this, just a month later, Hussein calls back. Not just alive, but healthy. Cancer. Gone.
Wow. That's quite a story. You could see how that would make you stop and think.
Absolutely. And our source says this was a huge turning point for them. It shifted their whole view of sacrifice, from just a ritual to something deeper, a connection, maybe even a path to healing.
And that's really the core of what we're exploring today, isn't it? This idea that there's more beneath the surface of these traditions than we might initially think.
Precisely. We're looking beyond the act itself to what it symbolizes. Our source calls it a sacred symbol, something that points towards God's nearness.
And that brings us to the divine name, Al-Qarib.
Yes, Al-Qarib, the one who is near. That's the central theme we're unpacking.
It's fascinating how that personal story, Hussein's story, acts as the doorway into this much larger theological idea. It's not presented as like a magic formula.
No, not transactional.
Right. More about how sincere faith, that turning towards God, might open up possibilities for healing, both spiritual and maybe even physical. It lifts the whole discussion.
Okay, so let's really dig into Al-Qarib, the one who is near. Our source is clear, though. This isn't about God being, physically next to us.
No, it's described as a spiritual and emotional nearness, much more intimate, profound. The text even alludes to that Quranic idea of God being closer than our jugular vein.
That's such a powerful image.
It really is. And crucially, Al-Qarib isn't just some abstract concept. The author calls it a lived reality.
I like that phrase, lived reality, because the examples given are so relatable, being lost in a huge crowd or feeling completely alone somewhere busy, or even in a quiet hospital room.
In all those moments, the idea is that this divine nearness is constant. It's there.
Okay, so how does this connect directly to sacrifice, especially around Eid al-Adha?
Well, the term for sacrifice itself, Qurbani, is key here. As the text points out, its root meaning is literally to draw near.
Ah, so the action itself is about moving closer.
Exactly. It reframes it completely.
Yeah.
It's not about giving something up to appease or ward off something bad. It's a movement towards God.
A positive movement. The text says not away from something, but towards someone. And the potential gain isn't just avoiding harm, but achieving closeness, healing, divine intimacy. That changes things.
It really does. And this idea of nearness, it extends even to our most private moments, like silent prayer.
Yeah, the source talks about when words just fail, when maybe tears are all you have. And the point is, Al-Qarib hears that too. It's not about volume or perfect phrasing.
It's about the heart's intention, isn't it? The trust that you are being heard, regardless of the distance we might perceive.
Which then leads into thinking about how this very personal act ripples outwards, the communal dimension, as the text puts it.
Right, because Eid al-Adha isn't just an individual observance. It's deeply communal.
So how does the sacrifice strengthen those community bonds?
Well, the source suggests it prompts us towards reconnection. Reaching out, maybe forgiving old grievances, sharing food, showing kindness.
It's like the divine nearness we feel personally then gets reflected in how we interact with each other.
Beautifully put. Every shared meal, every act of generosity during Eid, it's described as an echo of divine compassion. We experience that nearness together, tangibly.
And there's that specific verse mentioned from Surah Al-Baqarah.
Ah, yes. When my servants ask you concerning me, say, I am indeed near. I respond to the call of the caller when they call upon me.
Think about hearing that, especially feeling that sense of anticipation maybe on the morning of Eid. It feels like direct confirmation.
It absolutely grounds that feeling. It's not just a subjective sense of closeness. It's affirmed in revelation. And that feeling of being heard, being embraced, it's right there.
And of course, we can't talk about sacrifice without the story of Prophet Abraham and Ishmael, that ultimate test of faith.
The foundational narrative.
What's the key takeaway from their story regarding this idea of nearness?
The author stresses that their willingness, their submission, wasn't just blind obedience. It demonstrated that closeness to God is a lived experience. It's made real through trust and action.
through actually doing, not just believing.
Precisely embodying that nearness.
Now, the text brings in another perspective from Bediüzzaman Said Nursi about these Shaair, or sacred symbols, including sacrifice. What's his angle?
Nurse's view, as presented, is really interesting. He sees these symbols as almost like public trusts. They belong to the whole community, the Ummah.
Like historical monuments or shared traditions.
Kind of, yeah. They connect everyone to this deep historical and spiritual legacy. So honoring them, like performing the sacrifice, isn't just personal piety. It strengthens the entire community's shared identity.
And neglecting them would weaken that shared heritage.
That's the implication. It adds this collective responsibility dimension to it. It's about participating in something much larger than yourself.
That's powerful. And shifting back to the personal a bit, the source connects Al-Qarib to something very contemporary. Loneliness.
Yes, a very real struggle for many. And the message derived from Al-Qarib is direct and comforting. You are not alone, I am with you.
Yeah.
And Eid al-Adha then becomes a practical antidote. A time to consciously fight isolation by reaching out, sharing, connecting with others. Each act is like a small manifestation of that divine nearness in the world.
So for anyone listening who might feel isolated, this offers a different frame. You're always in the presence of the divine.
A profound counter-narrative.
And in the lead up to Eid, there's also this emphasis on looking inward. Repentance, renewal.
Yes. The days before Eid are highlighted as a time for reflection. The idea is that Al-Qarib draws especially near to those who sincerely turn back, who seek forgiveness.
So Eid isn't just the celebration day itself, but the culmination of this process of returning, of renewing one's connection.
Exactly, a spiritual reset, fueled by the awareness of God's closeness and readiness to accept that return.
But ultimately, after all this discussion about nearness and community, it comes back to the heart, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The source makes that point crystal clear, referencing the verse from Surah Al-Hajj.
It is not their meat nor their blood that reaches Allah. It is your piety that reaches him.
That's the core. The physical act is the symbol. But what truly matters, what reaches God, is the inner state. The piety, the awareness, the sincere longing to draw near. That's what makes it sacred.
So wrapping this up, if we understand sacrifice through this lens of Al-Qarib, the near one, it transforms it. It's not just fulfilling an obligation.
No, it becomes this incredibly rich act. It's about intentionally moving towards God, driven by sincere intention, strengthening community ties, and undertaking inner reflection. It transcends the ritual itself.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a really potent thought. How might really internalizing this idea of Al-Qarib, this constant, unwavering divine nearness, change things for you?
Yeah, how might it shift your perspective during difficult times, or when you pray, or even just how you engage with people around you?
Are we truly aware, moment to moment, of this nearness that the source argues is always there? It's something to really sit with.
Definitely. And the beautiful conclusion from our source is that if we approach Eid, and indeed our whole lives, with that sincerity, that presence, the connection we find can be truly profound.